Welcome back for our 10th episode of growing fall gold raspberry cuttings. It's day 146. I bought some spectricide triazicide. It has pyrethrins as the main ingredient. Those are from chrysanthemum flowers. And pyperonal butoxide in the greater concentration. It's this kind of white foamy substance that helps act as an enhancer. It doesn't do anything itself, but it helps to deliver this pyrethrin and all whatever analogs they're using into the insects and other pests, arachnids that I'm trying to get rid of. So it says may be applied on day of harvest. Don't let it run off and drip, and do not apply more than 10 times per season. So do not apply within 3 days, and etc. So you can actually burn the leaves by spraying too close, and shake before using. Hold can 18 to 24 inches. That's way too close. This is the first time I bought this in can form, and the first time I tried it at night, it was just way too much. There was a lot of that pyperonal butoxide foam getting on everything. So this gets rid of a lot of things, earwigs, scale insects, which are in my pots, and most importantly spider mites. Let's see what else. Yeah, fungus gnats. So you definitely don't want to spray this too close, because the pressure inside the can, a new can, is pretty considerable, and you're just going to get this white foam all over everything, and that'll burn the leaves, as I'll show you later on. But I had to do something. My plants are heavily infested with spider mites and fungus gnats and other things, so it's mostly the spider mites that I got to watch out for. And the top of this can looks a little weird, and I kind of expected a red straw to come out of that, like with an air duster. But let me just show you what kind of distance you should be spraying this at. So you give it a shake and let it fly, and you can see when you first press the button, maybe the can is like this when it's new, and maybe the problem will be solved later on when the pressure is lower and some of it's used up. But look at all this white milky spray on everything. So that's fairly concentrated. The reason they have other agents in there aside from the pyrethrins is they want to be able to deliver this. So not everything is water soluble. If it's semi-soluble or organic solvent soluble, they got to add those things in to deliver it. So this is actually a few days after the first application. I was just giving you a demo right now. And as you can see, the new primocanes are just bursting out through this dried up mango seed smoothie. It's really amazing how many there are, but some of these new leaves are burned. It does say on the can, beware of spraying this on new foliage, new growth. So we have some burns there, but also on the older foliage. These leaves are already quite old. And as you can see, the fruits are still developing. But because I've had this spider mite infestation and burned some leaves, I'm kind of worried about whether I'm going to get fully developed raspberries. Maybe the first few fruits won't go to fruition, or something will go wrong. But as you can see, there are some heavily burned leaves, and I had to do this because of the spider mite infestation. Dating back to when I first got started with plant growing series, with my sweet potato series in 2013, one of my first series, I had a really bad spider mite infestation, and those just came out of the potting mix. So in the last year or so, I've introduced some wild California clay soil that's sort of a reddish tint to it into my pots, and maybe it came from that, but I'm not quite sure. I think cuttings in general tend to do this, like with my other cutting, the California wild grapevine. So as you can see, bees are still coming, and they seem to be okay as long as you don't blast that pyrethrin spray in their face. You know, they'll do fine. So it's day 156, and the leaf burn is bad. I've lost many of these magnificent leaves. One of them snapped somehow. I don't know. Maybe a bird landed on it or something. I don't see how that could just snap like that. And many of these leaves are burned, the new ones. It's really unsightly, and this is the first time I've ever seen bark form. So if you're wondering what the transition from green, fleshy, juicy stems to woody bark-like stems is like, then this is basically it. It occurs in patches, and then it slowly creeps and develops, and eventually the whole stem will look like that, I imagine. So it's a nice new experience, very interesting, and there's just way too many of these new primocanes. There's severe overcrowding, and I think the whole pot will be like this basically within a few weeks. It'll just have all these parallel primocanes shooting straight up, and I rue the day in which they'll get too big and start to flop in all these directions. These things are thorny, so they're quite unpleasant to handle. And the fruits, they're still very greenish, and they're not really developing the way I envisioned, but it seems like this one that's on the right, upper right, it's got more of these berry, I don't know what you'd call those, globules or whatever. So it's day 157, the next day. Spider mite infestation was not dealt with. These look like mating fungus gnats or whatever, or some other kind of bug. There's just vermin everywhere, and you can see to the left of this screen some fungus gnats. I mean, spider mites just kind of blowing around in the wind. So this is what I think adult spider mites look like, the 5th instar, I believe. And they're just crawling everywhere looking for new homes, new sites to infest. And as you can see, even in a gentle breeze, they have traits of spiders. They let out a silken thread and carry away in the air and land on everything and destroy everything. So this is the second pyrethrin spray on everything except for my bok choy plants. Everything's heavily infested with a bunch of different species of bugs. And you can see the Joshua tree trunk coming nicely along there. The Joshua tree is the most resistant. Succulent leaves or blades or fleshy stems will do great. But if you keep spraying anything else on leaves like these, they basically burn up. So it's day 160, and I'm pruning away all the collateral damage. It's really unsightly. It's really a pity that I'm losing all of these huge, magnificent compound leaves. And they stop growing after a while just due to the infestation. I'm sure they would have gotten bigger. They're very productive, obviously, because of that massive surface area and them hanging over the edge of the balcony rail. Instead of 4.5 hours of morning sun, they get perhaps 6 or even 7. So that's added a lot of productivity. If these primocanes that are coming out fall over the rail, likewise, they'll add a lot to this plant's production. And you can see the berries are coming along nicely, although I'm sort of waiting for more of these round globules to come out and form a berry that we recognize. It doesn't really look like a berry. It's day 168, and we're on the long road to recovery. Pruned away a lot of that collateral damage, and the new shoots and their leaves are more of a yellow-green, but that's normal based on everything we've seen earlier on in this series. And the older foliage is green. It seems like there's no more sign of spider mite infestation, but I won't rule out another blast with the pyrethrins to get rid of the remaining stuff. I might even buy more heavy-duty insecticides for my Joshua tree, for example, because that's not something I'm going to eat. So why should I keep spraying something that's not really that potent, and it's still covered in bugs anyway, just at least not with spider mites. So fungus gnats are okay as long as they don't eat the roots of the plant. You've got all that mango seed smoothie that's dried out to feed on the underside, where I imagine it's wet and covered in maggots. And this offshoot has seen much better days. So this is the way I want to water. Just take out that showering nozzle and basically pour it on. This dried out mango smoothie crust on top is very neat. It seals in moisture, and it has its own aesthetic look to it, but you definitely don't want to use the showering cap because it's going to spray and bounce off all those leaves, all these primocanes, and make a big mess like it always does. So if you pour like this, you'd be surprised at how quickly the soil mass and the rhizome, I presume, that's in there which is probably giant by now, absorbs everything. So some of this water will run into the tray if it's really dry, and then it gets sucked back up within a few minutes. It's pretty amazing. So this is a small pot, and it's a fun pot to use, but it doesn't have a lot of watering capacity, so I have to be really careful not to overwater, because then nutrients and water will spill out of that tray and make a huge mess. So these are gone. Some of them fell off, maybe got eaten by birds. I think they just fell off. They look pretty gross. So I waited too long, and these look a lot more like real berries we should be eating. So in the next episode, I'll probably give you a demo of me eating them. Thanks for watching.